What's going on? Last minute live stream on a Wednesday. See if we got the microphone going. Audio. Yes. All right. Very cool. First, Billy Bedford. How goes it? How goes it today? What's up, Kevin Guthrie? How are you doing? Looking down at me with your cool glasses on. What's up, MD Chaz? With your Macintosh logo. Hey, Randy, did you get over to the Magnapan booth? No, I never go in there. I think I would like to hear some Magnapans, but I think I'd like to hear them like in my living room, as opposed to in a room in Chicago somewhere. God, that's a bad angle. I look fatter. Like this angle right here, I can live with this angle. This angle, no. Makes me look fatter than I actually am, which I am fat. Now you can see the back of my room. All right, we're going to have to go with it. What's up, Tim Bennett, all the way from New Delhi? Hope you have a great day, my friend. Hope you have a great day. Hey, Randy Bahina. Bahina, what's up? Randy, didn't you win a pair of speakers? Emotiva, right? I think you won some. Oh, which incidentally, I need to do the drawing for the amps, the Fozzy Audio amps. Solid. Listen to some vinyl. Hold on. That's a good part of the song. Gotta turn that down. I will get a copyright strike from my boys at Metallica. 4DBX. I don't know what that means. Good evening from Holland. Good evening. Do you know Fozzy is doing a Kickstarter V3 audio file? What? You'd think they would say something. Maybe they did. Maybe I didn't read the email. No, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Howdy from O'Hare Airport. What up? Be safe. Fly safely. Yes, I did. And love them. Very cool. Hey, John Shepler. Hey there. Howdy from outside of Boston. Howdy. From North Texas. Trying a new turntable. The U-Turn Orbit Theory. It's very nice. Very nice. I spent like 3 hours today setting it up. And so in my brain, so it has an Orifon 2 in blue. So in my brain, I'm like, brain, I've got the perfect way to A-B this. I'm going to get out one of my vintage receivers that has 2 phono stage or phono inputs, and I'm going to A-B it. Get the same record, play at the same time. So I have 2 turntables hooked up, both with Orifon 2 and blues, and I'll switch back and forth. A couple of problems with that. I didn't know, but it turns out that most vintage receivers, if it has 2 phono inputs, actually have 2 phono preamps inside. So I'm not listening to the same preamp on both of them. And then the other problem was that the U-Turn has an internal ground within the RCA, and it doesn't play well with vintage receivers. I've got it hooked up to a Emotiva PT2, 0 noise. No noise at all. Sounds great. But on some of the vintage, it sounded good on the vintage stuff too. It's just that there was some hum. Good afternoon from Southeast Pennsylvania. Hey, Randy, Pioneer 3-way speakers from late 80s and 90s. Are they good? I think, yeah, a lot of people would say they're great. I've never heard them. The guy to talk to about that would be Lenny. from Just Audio, which incidentally, if you don't subscribe to Just Audio, please do, because they're awesome. And Lenny is one of the coolest guys I've met. And I think he's got some experience with that vintage Pioneer stuff. Big difference from the Orbit Plus. From a finish perspective, I'd say yes. You can't see it very well. So it's got a walnut plinth, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And like the knobs are really nice. It's got speed control, so if you want to go 45 or 33 to 45, you just switch the thing instead of having to move the belt. So yeah, I feel like feels a lot better, but I didn't have a Orbit with a 2M Blue. But yeah, it definitely feels a lot more premium. And it's not like the Orbit Plus was bad at all. It's just this one feels a lot more premium, and it should, because it's a lot more expensive. Yeah. Rob, I still don't know what that means. You can keep typing it, but I'm still not going to know what it means. Rod Irish. John Shepler, I had to put smaller feet on my new Emotiva MR1. Otherwise, it wouldn't fit in my stand. Yes, it's big. Man, that thing is big and heavy. Not picking that up with my teeth. LOL. Oh, I remember when yeah. That's funny. I could probably do that with it. Yeah. Oh, much better on the belt switching. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of switching out belts. Not at all. What's up from Cleveland? What's up, Bill T? How are you? I have the Orbit Plus with the blue as my secondary. I'm sure it sounds great. There's not a lot of outside of the speed control. It does have a new motor. I believe it has a new tone arm. It sounds flipping amazing. I mean, it sounds really, really, really good. But I was messing with so many vintage receivers today. So here's the real question: Fluence versus U-turn with the 2M Blue. That is what I'm planning to do, Scott's Old Timey channel, because I have right there is a Fluence RT83 with a 2M Blue. So it doesn't have the acrylic platter, but it does have the 2M Blue. So I have been that was the plan, is to be able to do a quick AB between the tables and try to isolate. So if it has the same cartridge, and it's not a great way of doing things, but to try to isolate it down to, hey, if I'm hearing differences, in theory, it should be the table and not the cartridge. But that's assuming that I have the cartridges perfectly aligned and everything's perfect, and the phono stages are perfectly the same, and I cannot guarantee any of that. So I was telling a patron earlier, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this old-fashioned way. Just listen and then talk about it. Did I get any super chats? No super chats. Good afternoon from Calgary, Alberta. What's up, Stefan? Stefan Z. Got a little drink there. Lemon wedge. Yellow straw. Where should I sell my used audio home theater equipment? I'm currently using Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Yeah, that's probably the I don't know, man. So there's US Audio Mart. There's Reverb. Where did I sell? I sold some high-end stuff. I can't remember where it was. It was one of the better used places online. Anyway, it doesn't do you any good because I can't remember the name of it. It wasn't US Audio Mart. It was like I had to pay for it. And they have some pretty decent listings on there with like nice pictures and stuff. Audio Gone. That's what it is. Mike S. Audio Gone. So if it's like worth some bucks, I would go with Audio Gone. I had a great experience with them. I sold some Meze Elites on there. So yeah, seamless. Audio Go. That's right. Paris. Siech Tabor. Love it. I want to go to Paris. Simon Hackshaw, greetings from Florida. Good to see and hear you online. Sounding much better, sir. Take care. Hope the family are well too. Thank you. I had lunch with my daughter at school today. It was a lot of fun. 10:30 though. So her lunch is really like a brunch. We're a stingy crowd because we buy cheap audio. That's right. We are. Traditional Outdoors. Greetings, Randy. I'm considering a set of Emotiva T2 Plus towers to drive with my vintage Hafler XL 280. Is there another tower speaker in the same price range you would recommend I consider? All right, the T2 Plus. What are those? Probably like $1,400 a pair. T0s used to be $400. I know all of these have gone up. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think the T1 Plus used to be like $800. So I think the T2 Plus were around 1,000, which means they're probably around 1,200 now. I mean, I guess I could just look it up. Hold on. Emotiva T2 Plus at $1,200. All right. So $1,200 for floor standing speakers. Maybe the SVS Prime. I don't know how much those are though. SVS Prime Power. Those are $600 a piece. So they come in right at the same price. I would like heavily consider both of those. And then I don't know what the Polk Reserve come in at. I would look at those two. I think the reserves are probably more expensive than the T2 Plus or the Primes. Well, why don't we just figure it out? Let's see, Polk Reserve or 700 is okay. So those are a lot more expensive. Those are $1,100 a piece, and it looks like they're not on sale. So yeah, if that's your price range, SVS and Emotiva probably be on my short list. Although you could also look at the concert series from Jammo. You can probably get $1,000 probably goes a long way with the concert series. Audio Gone is the best to buy and sell used audio. Well, there you go. Comparing Fluence RT85N versus Project Evo, both around 500 to 600. Thoughts on which one to get? Well, I think the Project Evo is like a fully manual table. I don't know what they go for with a Nagaoka MP110, which is this one. I don't know what those go for, but I think people love Project Evo. Project's a good company. I'm sure that table's made in Europe. 85N, I think, is made in Taiwan or something like that. So I think, you can vote with your dollars if you want to put your money in Europe or whatever. But, Fluence is a Canadian company. So most of that money is coming back to Canada. So, but the Fluence has some automation. So it will have an auto off, which for people like me that move around a lot, like I'm literally forgetting that I have a record going right now, which I'm going to actually take it up. So if you want any automation, then Fluence is the obvious choice. But if you want a manual turntable, something that's a little bit more sleek, then probably the Project. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Polk R500 is $1,200 a pair. There you go. R500. I think those are three great choices. Finally, we got a super chat. Thank you, Movie Junkie John. Hey, Randy, getting in the Cambridge AX825 soon. Stop playing my Class D musical chairs with amps. Any modern FM tuners you recommend or used? Whew. No. The only thing that's new that has a tuner in it is the Emotiva stuff. So this is the PT2. It's got an FM tuner in it. The TA1, TA2, they have FM tuners, but you already have an amplifier, so you don't need that. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't done any research into FM tuners, so I'm the wrong person to ask. You may be able to actually find like a new old stock FM tuner that looks really cool. Or you could probably buy one on AudioGone for next to nothing. Well, not next to nothing, but I mean, you could probably get something that's really cool looking. Do you have any recommendations for a good preamp with home theater bypass capability? Funny you ask, Grant. I'm listening to it right now. PT2 from Emotiva. I haven't had this hooked up for a while, and I was playing around with the U-turn here, and when I finally put the PT2 in, it was like I was listening to two different vintage receivers, a Yamaha CR800 and then a Realistic STA 2270. And so I put the PT2 in, and it's on the A1 monoblocks, and it was just like, whoa. It sounded so much better than my vintage stuff, which is crazy because usually I would say, well, it's not that the Emotiva doesn't sound as good, but usually I really like the way vintage sounds, but it did not play well with the U-turn theory. So U-turn theory likes new stuff. So yeah. Parasound P6. There you go. You know what's funny is the Parasound and the Emotiva, if you look at like spec for spec and feature for feature, they're very similar. Emotiva's more affordable, but a lot of the Parasound stuff they look like they're brothers or first cousins. FM tuner, what about Weem? Can it do tune in? I think it does. Tune in radio. It's a good point, John. Any thoughts on Buckeye amps? I haven't heard of them or seen them or like looked into them at all. Just getting into vinyl would suggest not overlooking the Audio Technica LP30 TK for all of $200. I did not try the built-in Phonostage. At a 100 or 1,000 hertz tone off my Shure test LP is $998. Yeah, I think that one is overlooked simply because like Audio Technica doesn't need to send their stuff out to anybody. And I have never played around with one, but I think dollar for dollar, if you don't care what the turntable looks like, then absolutely. I think the Audio Technica is probably the best bet. And I actually should get one in just to play around with it, because I think they're not talked about often enough. I think the people in the know talk about them. Like I know Skylab, he's got a vintage shop in Iowa. He's got a great channel too. If you're not subscribed to Skylab, please go subscribe. I watched a great video of his last night. I think he put it out about 3 days ago. Is the top 5 monster receivers. Great video. I watched the whole thing, and usually I usually don't watch a whole video, but I watched that whole video. He sells some Audio Technica tables, and I think he's talked about that one quite a bit before. Have you ever used or listened to a dynamic range expander with your turntable? I have got the Black Ice Audio something. I think it's stereo expander. So, no. Short answer to your query is no. But I do have one, and I need to hook it up. I keep saying I'm going to hook it up, but I never have. Yeah, watch that. Love that whole giant receiver vid. Any news on the MQA bankruptcy? I haven't seen any. I haven't really been like looking hard at it though. So I have not seen that. That's what a DB4X is. There you go. Well, I've got one. DBX4BX. I've got one. I just haven't listened to it yet. So yeah. Hi from Iran. I'm looking to upgrade from my Mackie powered speakers, but it's very hard to find home audio equipment here. I bet my only option would be to use a quality car amp. Would you recommend this? So, that's difficult because you would need to have a 12 volt. You can do it, but you would need a AC to 12 volt converter. And I don't know what type of current you're going to get on that. So there's a way to do it. And actually people have made kind of like boom boxes out of car stereo head units, and it works. So you can look at like 12 volt computer power supplies, and you could make it work for sure. I would try to find regular hi-fi home speakers though. So use the head unit or an amplifier like that for your source, but try to find regular speakers in a box, and you can absolutely make it work. There's another great channel, if you're not subscribed, called Toids DIY. So TOID DIY. And he has a video where he makes kind of a little home hi-fi setup with a head unit from a car. Pretty cool. How does the trigger out work with the Weem Pro? I haven't tried it. I should try it though. I've got one right over here. Jerome O'Flattery. I should try that. Yeah, I think I might. I think the Outlaw Audio RR2160 Mark II should be a runner-up for mega receivers. I would love to get one of those in. Running off a battery bank. I messed around with this in my 20s. Yeah, there you go, man. Running off a battery bank. NAD M23 with a Prima Luna. Any thoughts? I haven't heard either of those. So I have none. Jimmy, I don't often, not all of my thoughts are very good, but I have zero thoughts about that because I haven't heard it. MQA, they had my pants down. It's simple. They told Porkies. No idea what that means. Randy, amateur radio uses 12 volt DC, and power supplies are readily available and cheap. There you go. Ham radio stuff. There you go. Is there a speaker model you would always say avoid based on price or just sound? There's a 3-way Yamaha speaker. No, it's super cheap. It was complete garbage. Like, I could not believe how bad it was. It's a 3-way Yamaha. I think they're about $140. I think they've been selling them for 30 years. And it's like the enclosure sounded like a 5-gallon bucket, an empty 5-gallon bucket that you would get like at Home Depot. Sounded like a drum. And it was just all mid-range. I hated that speaker. I think it was the worst speaker I've ever heard. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Do you have a 2-channel system running 2 front and 2 rear speakers? Or do you just like running front? Usually I just run 2 channels in front of me. If I do like want surround, then I just, run it off a surround receiver or something like that. But there's a way to do like to wire 4 speakers into 2 channels. One of my patrons put it out, like actually had like a little flyer on how to do it. It's really interesting. So you can do 4 channels off of just 2 channels, or 4 speakers off of 2 channels. But no, I don't. I just run fronts. But I will listen to all channel stereo when I'm listening to a home theater receiver sometimes. Speakers from Fluence Avoid. Yeah, I would have a tendency to agree. There was a bookshelf speaker early on that I did, and I thought it was pretty good. It was one of the first videos I ever did, though. I think they were $200 at the time, and I thought they were pretty good. And then I started listening to more and more speakers, and they got less good. I've had some floor standers in. I love Fluence. I think they make some of the best turntables out there. I think they're much better at making turntables than they are at making speakers. Traditional outdoors, $20. Thank you so much. Thanks for the recommendation. Likely ordered a pair of Yamo. Remove item, save for later. C97 2 towers today. Yeah, I love those speakers. Now they're not neutral. Like, so that is not a like hi-fi speaker. It is a fun speaker, but they're made really well and they're really cheap. I don't know why. Like one day they just went on sale and they never went off sale. So you're absolutely 100% welcome. All right. Zach M 2020, $5. Thank you. For someone who's mainly had speakers more on the neutral, warmer side, what would be a more lively speaker you'd suggest for around $300 or so? The easy answer to that would be the Emotiva B1 Plus. Very clean on top, push forward a little bit. Feels like it's pretty. Actually, I think that speaker measures pretty flat, but it's got a lot of energy on top. And I think it's right around $300. Used to be $250. Maybe it's $350 now. But if you're wanting to divest yourself from a warmer speaker, there's no better way and no better speaker than the Emotiva B1 Plus. Absolutely awesome speaker. So much so that I have a brand new pair in the garage. I think I'm going to bring those out because right now I've been listening to the Wharfdale Evo 4.1s, who incidentally look a lot like the B1 Plus. Like it looks like the B1 Plus's older, fancier brother that went to college and got a really good white collar job, where the Emotiva is kind of like he went to welding school. Great. He's got a great life, great family, makes decent money, but he's a welder. The Wharfdale 4.1 is like a, I don't know, works in currency funds. I don't know. Have you tried the Sumiko Pearl cartridge? I can personally recommend it. It's a very good budget buy. I have not. I've had, no, Golden Ear's not. I've had a Sumiko cartridge in here before. Came in a little wood box. I dropped and broke the box. And I think I put it back together and then sent it back. I'm like, here you go. Nothing to see here. I didn't break the cartridge, but the box was some fancy wooden box. And I dropped it and I broke it. Actually, I think that was a bit in the video. I think I was messing around and I dropped it in the video. Any alternatives to the V1 Plus? I would have to pay 200 Canadian to ship them here. Ooh. Well, look at the C93.2s from Yamaha. I think they're about $250 now, maybe around 300. So it's the larger woofer. Yeah, C93 too. I'm absolutely positive that that's the model number on that. And then let's see, $300. You can look at the ELAC debut B5 or B6.2, but I wouldn't say that those are like super lively on top. If you want something fun and lively, B1 Plus or Yamaha C93.2. And I don't know what the C93.2s go for in Canada. Greetings from Colombia. Greetings, Guillermo. Just sat down with my coffee. I need to get more coffee. Nemo Propaganda did a review on some Hikos and loved them. I've never heard them. I know that the Hikos went through a few reviewers. I think that is a brand that is exclusive to Audio Advice. I think somebody reached out to me through the comments on a live stream. I'm like, just email me, man. But anyway, I've never heard the Hikos, but it made the rounds on the YouTubery. They're probably good. He specifically compared them to the Emotivas. Well, there you go. Then go watch Nemo Propaganda's video on that. But I can't vouch for him because I've never heard him. I can vouch for the Emotiva B1 Plus, and I have yet to hear something that is as good as they are at the same price. Let me preface that I have yet to hear something that has the magic that they do. Speaker sound is, subjective. So anyway, yeah. But that's an option. I've just never heard it, so I'm not going to talk about them on my channel because I can't say that they're as good or anything else. But go watch Nemo's video. What do you do to isolate your speaker cables? I like to cover them in maple syrup and then make some waffles and then kind of take the waffles and then fold it over, kind of like a breakfast taco. And so you waffle. I almost said frosting. Waffle syrup, and then taco it around that, and probably about every 8 to 10 inches. So that's what I would do. Careful in the summer, though. You may get ants. What do you do to isolate your... Okay. Oh, that was I'm sorry. I thought that was like a joke question. Thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry. I feel like a jerk now. I don't do anything to isolate my speaker cables. Absolutely nothing. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't know that was a serious question. Yeah, I'm the wrong. I just buy decent speaker cable. Like I buy, I don't know, like 12 gauge copper. Yeah. So I don't do anything to isolate the speaker cables. You can. So if you want to, you can do like a four strand braid, which isn't difficult. So you can look it up on YouTube and you can do. So what basically you're doing is you're braiding the cable at 45 degrees. So, and in that instance, I wouldn't get 12 gauge. I would get something like 16 gauge. And so you'll use 2 strands for the positives, 2 strands for the negative, and then you can braid them. And I think you net like 11 gauge or something from that, or maybe 12 gauge. And then the construction of the cable at 45 degrees rejects noise. And some people like swear by that. So that's what I would do. Get yourself some 16 gauge wire. Look up on YouTube how to do a 4-strand braid. And it looks cool too. I've made some just because it looks cool, not because I really care about noise, but because it looks cool. So that's what I would do. And then you can make your own. And inherently, it is noise rejecting. Sith Audio cable rises. Waffles and maple syrup. Delicious. I'm making myself hungry. Why do people have a love or hate relationship with Klipsch? I think they sound good. I'm guessing the brightness thing is the argument. Yeah, I think so. And some people, I think, will talk about cabinet resonance. Klipsch are good. I enjoy Klipsch. I just can't listen to them for a long time because I do start to get some fatigue. And that is something that I think that sound is, they're moving away from that. And I think the latest iteration of the RP600M Mark II is a little bit less forward in like the 1800 2K range. I just got in though a bunch of powered speakers from Klipsch. It's interesting. I did a questionnaire. I don't think you could really call it a poll, but I guess it was a poll. Which speaker brand? Basically, it was kind of like, which speaker brand is your favorite? And so I was like trying to see the brand recognition and kind of the brand equity that the company said, and far and away, Klipsch like walked away with it. Absolutely, like double-digit percentage points. Klipsch was far and away the winner of that one, which I found interesting. But I think that's the thing. Like, I think there's people that, like are Klipsch. They buy Klipsch. They continue to buy Klipsch. They get maybe into the heresy. They just love Klipsch. And then there's people that kind of poo-poo on them because I don't think Klipsch like adheres to the kind of the linear frequency response that is kind of like just accepted truth for what a speaker should be like or what a speaker should sound like. So I think that's why there's love-hate with them. Okay, I have a lot of static and was curious. If you have a lot of static, you could also look at your RCA. Your RCA might RCA cables. Now those I've had issues with noise and it's a shielding issue. So I switched out the RCAs and it was better. I buy Amazon Basics RCAs, but I've been buying a lot of the world's best cable RCAs. But if you like know that it's your speaker cable, yeah, just make yourself up some and do a four strand braid. Yeah. And it's fun to do. I think you can get the same level of noise rejection from a twisted pair. There you go. Yeah, do a twisted pair. Won't look as cool though. Yeah, and twisted pair is just twist. I don't know like how many twists per inch or per 2 inches or whatever, but yeah. There you go. Do I have any experience with Rotel turntables? No, not Rotel. Project though, and U-turn Influence. Oh, and Monoprice. So yes, Project and Rotel though are like owned by the same bigger company. I didn't think the ELAC Unify reference had great bass. Maybe mine were never properly broken. Boxed it up and we'll be selling them. I thought they had a lot more bass than. You know what though? I'm gonna walk that back. I remember the ELAC Unify 5 2.0. I remember being surprised at the amount of bass. I remember not being surprised by the Unify reference amount of bass. Actually, I've got them back there somewhere. But I think I was surprised by that top end of the Unify reference. I didn't think it extended as much as the 2.0s did. I thought it was more laid back compared to the Unify 2.0. I never thought that it was like anemic though. It could be break-in. it could be the power you have on it too. I think those speakers like a little bit of juice. More product of the 70s. I like equalizers, reverb amps, and dynamic range expanders. Cool. Very cool. I think equalizers are kind of, I wouldn't say coming back into fashion like with like big companies, but like Skits, Duke Audio. There's some options for equalizers where there wasn't for a while. There you go. The Unifies need sufficient power to open up. I was looking into getting into LPs after a childhood full of them. Was thinking of the Audio Technica. What do you think? Yeah, we kind of talked about that earlier. Is Audio Technica is one of those companies that isn't on the YouTube circuit because they don't need to be. They just sell and have sold so many turntables that they just kind of do their thing and they don't care. Plus they're Japanese. I don't think Japanese really care about like YouTube. Anyway, I had a Rotel turntable back in the 70s. No clue what happened to it. Let me put a question out to you. All right, here we go. Is Topping E50 one of the best DACs under 1,000? I don't know if I'd go that far. It's definitely one of the best DACs under $500 for sure. For sure. Let me ask you guys a question. What is your favorite? What is a record that you heard and then you heard it on a different pressing or something, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is like night and day? Have you had any experience with a record that you've heard a different pressing and were blown away? We know your opinion on Bluetooth in general, but have you had a chance to listen to the new-ish BT 5.3 version? It is advertised as lossless. I have not. It depends on the codec though, because like regardless of whether or not it can handle the amount of bandwidth, Bluetooth is still going to be, in a certain sense, like even if it gets really good, it's still going to be like MQA, where it is taking something, it's taking it apart, and then it's putting it back together. And so when you do that, there can be loss. And Bluetooth is also like variable. It throttles itself depending upon what type of connection you have. So if you have a really good Bluetooth connection, even SBC, if it's a really solid connection, can actually pass way more data than people think it can. But when you get into these different codecs, they will throttle depending upon how good of the connection or how good of a connection it is. And the reason why I'm not a big fan of Bluetooth anymore is simply because with a Wii Mini for $80, like you have lossless. Like this is real lossless. This is like bit perfect lossless. And then you can default to AirPlay or I think Chromecast, which is can transfer way more data. And then you can also have Bluetooth. So like there's 3 tiers of streaming that I would go. Real streaming, which is this. Then I would go AirPlay or Chromecast, which is this. And then I would go Bluetooth, which is this. But it seems like it's getting better. With all that said, like Bluetooth doesn't care about us. Like the Bluetooth crowd, their customer base is everybody that's using like Bluetooth headphones or something. Like their Bluetooth isn't pushing the envelope because of higher fidelity. In a sense they are, but their target market is not audiophiles. It's the masses. So it would be interesting for me to hear it, but fundamentally Bluetooth is always going to be deconstructing and reconstructing on the other end a signal. And even when like aptX came out, it was still lossy. AAC really lossy and really thin. LDAC can sound pretty good. But the cool thing about LDAC is you can also use EQ within LDAC. but Apple devices, unless they're switching their codec, are only AAC. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Apple will make a big push for next AirPods lossless soon. Then everybody will want it. Again, though, I mean, we have to consider, what is our definition of lossless? Is lossless the ability to transmit the amount of throughput, like 1200 kilobits per second? Because unless it is an on or off, if it throttles itself at all and kind of goes down to AAC or a different codec, then it's not truly lossless. So anyway, it can, in theory, transport lossless, but whether or not it's going to actually do that is a different thing. And really, the only way you'd know it is if your streaming service was, or if you have a FLAC file on your phone and it's the codec is somehow FLAC, or it's doing a bit perfect deconstructive FLAC and then a bit perfect reconstructive FLAC on the other end. Otherwise, it's just mental masturbation with, semantics. And that's what Bluetooth is like. Bluetooth is a semantic or semantical argument, if that's the word. Even AirPlay is semantics, because AirPlay still uses a codec to tear apart the file and then reconstruct it on the other end. Here we go. What about Apple's ALAC codec? So ALAC is very similar to FLAC, and if you have if you're listening to it on a computer in ALAC, then yes, it's lossless. If you're transporting ALAC, then depending upon how Apple does it, and maybe that's the new thing, but again, it comes down to signal strength and bandwidth. And that bandwidth almost always in Bluetooth has always been variable, because Bluetooth, like the worst thing you can do when you're listening to Bluetooth, or the most frustrating thing that happens to Bluetooth, is what? It's when you drop, right? So you're listening to your headphones, and all of a sudden it just goes away, right? Or you're listening to your stereo, whatever it is, right? It's that interruption in service. That is the most annoying thing about Bluetooth or AirPlay or anything else like that. So companies know this, and they're going to make that signal in a way that even if it's not the ideal circumstance, it's still going to give you something. It's like when you watch Netflix and all of a sudden your Wi-Fi starts flickering. All of a sudden everything starts to pixelate, right? And you can still hear it, but like the video gets really pixelated. And then all of a sudden, boom, it comes back and everything's clean again. It's the same thing, right? So there's a throttling of data. And unless the Bluetooth is somehow an on or off, it's always hitting these data throughputs, or it's not, then there's no way to have truly lossless. Otherwise, it's breaking down. Now, does that matter? I don't know. Not really, I guess. But I think it's great. I would love it if Bluetooth could do lossless, but Bluetooth was never created to be a data transfer tool. It was, I can't remember what it was created for, but music was never what they had in mind when they created Bluetooth. It just so happens that was the type of technology that could support, wireless music. Anyway, I love the Ween amp. Now I can't live without it. Fubar 2000. I loved Ween Winamp. No, I can't live without Fubar. Okay, there you go. Streaming with my Weem on wireless is so much better than iPhone app with Bluetooth. I agree. I do listen to Bluetooth at night when I'm watching like YouTube videos or TV or movies. Signal strength is more important than a lot of people realize for all of them. Absolutely. Because otherwise we're just looking at a white paper and just saying, in the best case scenario, this is how much data can be transferred. There's no there's no guarantee that it is transferring that amount of data. And that's what Bluetooth is all about, is all these different codecs are able to basically convert more and more data and transfer it in the same amount of time. In theory, though, that's like best case scenario, though. So, and there's no guarantee that it's actually going to do that. I use Fubar 2000 as a player on my Samsung phone. Very good. Sorry, I'm looking at my watch because I've got to pick up my daughter. I have a Fozzy BT28. Excuse me. Cambridge Audio Topaz CD. I never know how to say that. AWA PXE80 turntable and an Edifier PS15 speakers. Looking for turntable replacement. Sorry. What would you recommend? It depends on your budget. I like U-turn. Fully manual though, so you're not going to it's not going to stop automatically. And then I love Fluence. I also like Project. Usually my de facto recommendation has been Fluence if you want a little bit of automation and you want a removable head shell. And then U-turn if you just want a manual turntable. But I don't know where you're located at, and I don't know what your budget is. But Fluence is always, I would always recommend the Fluence. RT82 and up. Please help with a simple setup for my PC. Optical out. Budget $500. Need streaming too. Love the channel. Okay. So, I mean, if you're using your PC, you don't need streaming because your computer is a streamer. Your computer is probably a better streamer than any little streamer like this. So, if you're connected to a computer, then you don't need a streamer because you can do Tidal, you can do Amazon Music, you can do whatever. You can do Fubar, you can do all sorts of stuff. You got more horsepower than any streamer would ever dream to have. So you don't need a streamer. You will need a DAC though, or you'll need speakers that have a DAC in them. If you want something simple, look at the Klipsch 5s. I think they can be had for $500. If you want a couple of boxes, you can look at the Fozzy Audio BT20A, and then you could get like topping E50 for $200. So then you're at around $300. You only have $200 for speakers though. So you could look at the Sony CS5. You come in into that. You have really good DAC, a good amplifier, and then some really good speakers and tone controls. And then you can do probably some type of EQ on your computer. You can get the 5s. They'll do optical. They have an app. They do Bluetooth. They have a phono stage. I think as they've come down in price, the value proposition on the Klipsch 5s continues to go way up. Because like what were we talking about? We're talking about an $80 let's say $100 amplifier, $200 DAC, and then $200 pairs of speakers. So that's $500. Or you could get the 5s. So it's interesting that powered speakers can actually be a really good deal. Now, whether or not they sound good is yet to be determined because I need to hook them up, but I think they've sold a lot of them. I remember an a Walkman I had, the only one with Dolby C and a bass and treble slider on it, metal case, not much larger than a cassette tape. I remember one that was actually smaller than a cassette tape, and it actually went kind of like around a cassette. I remember that I was actually thinking about, and it was good. It was high end in the 80s. I actually looked up like a Walkman just because I wanted to be I was feeling a little nostalgic, and I couldn't find any decent examples. that I wanted, and they're probably like going for a mint now. The 5s are a Swiss Army knife. So many use cases. Yeah. Agree. What do you think about the Boston A20X loudspeakers? I haven't heard those. I have not heard them. I like using my Weem at my desk so I can switch inputs quickly while I'm in a program like gaming or need to reference a video. Title is in exclusive mode is annoying when I forget to pause it. Yes. Well, in that case, yeah, get a Weem. You can absolutely get a Weem. But if you want to save some money, like your computer is a better streamer than the Weem ever will be. But you make a great point that if you want something separate, then a Weem's easy way to go. Hey, Randy, what do you think of this setup? Q Acoustic 3010i plus SMSL A300. Or should I go for SMSL DA9 instead? Also in Q Acoustic 3010 better than the Polk Audio ES10. Thank you. I think Q Acoustic is probably better if you want a more linear response. I think the ES10. Now, I got to preface this. I haven't heard either of those speakers. I have heard the 3020i. I've heard the 3020s. I've heard the 3030s. I've heard the 5020s. I've heard the ES15s. I've heard the S15s. I've heard the S20s. So I've actually never heard the two speakers that you're referencing. If they sound anything like the ES15 or the 3020i, the cues are going to be a little bit more behaved, a little bit more linear, not as much pop on the bottom. The ES15, I think, is a great sounding speaker. And if the ES10 sounds anything like the ES15, I personally would probably go with the ES15 or the ES10 and the DA9. The A300 for me is a little anemic. And if you put that on the 3010, it's going to be really thin. Now, the A300 does have some baked in EQs, as does the DA9. Personally, for me, I like the DA9 better. So I would go DA9, Polk, ESW10 if you had a gun to my head. Best sounding Chinese amp. Well, a lot of amps are made in China. Even the ones that you wouldn't think are made. Anyway, I think the Fozzy Audio BT20A, great for $80. Think it sounds good. I also think the AIYIMA, come on, you can do it. AIYIMA A07 Pro, pretty good sounding. A little bit cleaner mid range than this one, but this one's a little bit punchier. Those are the cheap ones. I think it would be the Duke Audio version of this. So the ST01 Pro, I think sounds awesome. That's about $160. So those were what I would. These BT20A Pro, A07 Pro, Duke Audio ST01 Pro. They're all pros. I'm gonna have to call this quits here in a second. All right, a couple more questions. Belated greetings from Arch City. What up, Mark? Rocking a Fluence RT81, Emotiva B1 Plus, and AIYIMA A08 Pro. Where can I expand next to improve sound for the greatest ROI? Emotiva B1 Plus, 808 Pro. So are you only are you only vinyl? What are you using for the phono preamp? If you're only going vinyl, I would look at a cartridge upgrade. That's going to be I wouldn't say the biggest improvement. I'll say the biggest change in sound. Whether or not it's an improvement, it's going to be ultimately up to you. But I would look at, if you're vinyl only, cartridge swap. And then if you don't want to do a cartridge swap, which I would recommend you do a cartridge swap because the RT81 has a removable head shell, so it makes it really easy to do a cartridge swap. Then I would look at doing a phono preamp. That's what I would do. RT81 has built-in. Yes, but you can still, I would do a cartridge swap. That's what I would do. Do you think about NAD DAX? Do I think about NAD DAX? Not really. RTA1 has a built-in preamp. Yes, it does. But I'm telling you that oftentimes you can get a lot better sound out of a standalone preamp, or a lot different sound. With that said, I would still change out the cartridge. That's what I would do. Can you defeat bypass the pre on the RT81? I'm almost positive that you can. I've never had the RT81. Yeah, I take that back. I think I have had, and yes, it is defeatable. All right, I'm gonna call it quits today. I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I'm gonna have more videos coming out, including the orbit theory from U-turn. So far, so good. It's a little bit pricey, a little bit. It's not cheap, but it sure does sound good. Anyway, have a great Wednesday. Hope you have a great weekend if I don't talk to you soon. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for watching. Hey, John from South Africa. All right, goodbye.